Welcome in, everybody. This is the Final Whistle exclusively on A2D Radio, broadcasting from the Real Talk Studios. You can find us on Twitter, X, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you get your podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, and iTunes. Doug Mankiewicz representing the Miami Heat. Big basketball show tonight. Doug Mankiewicz representing the Miami Heat. Brad Ryer representing the New York Knicks. And yours truly, Robert Brinkman, representing the Philadelphia 76ers. Each and every week, the Final Whistle is brought to you by Alan Foy of eXp Realty. Looking to buy or sell a home, looking for a change in career or brokerage, contact Alan Foy of eXp Realty, 302-682-8820. There's his email right there, alan.foy@exprealty.com. And always remember to hit that like, hit that subscribe, turn those notifications on. Don't miss a damn thing here on A2D Radio as the sports world moves into the spring months. Fun time in spring. You know, we're getting daylight till like 6 o'clock now out on the UPS route. It's nice. It's nice. Brad, you're down at the beach. Florida's
It's
always
nice
sunny for Doug.
Yeah, it's not. It's nice to not have to drive home at night in the dark. You know, does help.
Like I said, we got a big basketball show. We're going to talk about the second half underway as of Thursday night. Sixers-Knicks leading it off. Sixers also play the Bucks on Saturday. We're getting all the second half stuff, and then we are going to discuss the Milwaukee Bucks and their rather strange coaching situation. Each and every week, we start with our poll question. Let us know what you think in the comments. We'll interact with you as the show goes on. The New York Knicks will advance further than the Philadelphia 76ers in the NBA playoffs. I'm going to lead it off tonight. They probably will, because I don't trust that Joel Embiid is going to be back healthy. Knicks get a Thursday night. Knicks get a big double-digit victory over the Sixers. It's tough to judge. I do love what the Sixers did at the trade deadline. You bring in two guys who can transport the ball up the floor. One comes from Doug's Miami Heat and Kyle Lowry. Older, yes, but I think he's still got some fight in him. You get Cameron Payne. He can transport the ball up and down the basketball floor as well. But I can't get over the fact that this Sixers team seems to always disappoint, and we just have no idea if Joel Embiid is going to play. The Knicks are, Brad, relevant, championship relevant for the first time since, 1999 when they went to the finals?
Yeah, the only problem is we don't know about Randall. You know, he has a dislocated shoulder. You know, is he going to be healthy in time for the playoffs? You know, Anunoby is going to be back, but he won't be back till March 1st. So we still have another week without him. So I mean, we'll see. I'd like to see them have Mitch Robinson back too. I mean, they don't have him either. I'm going to look at it with both these teams this way, and I'm going to assume that everybody's healthy. Okay, so because it's impossible to handicap it when you don't really know anybody's health. But if everybody's healthy, I just think right now the Knicks are a little deeper than they are. I think it would be a very tough series, and it's going to be a long series. But I just think that the Knicks have a lot of depth now to go with what they've got, and you know I don't see how they. I can see them winning a series against Philly. I don't think they can beat Boston. I don't think they're quite there yet. But you know they're getting closer. That's for sure. They definitely closed the gap quite a bit. So we'll see.
Doug, how do you size this up? Obviously Boston's.
I don't trust the 76ers at all. I don't trust Embiid. Lowry, they basically just got a lesser version of the guy they got rid of. Maybe obviously a better teammate, I think. But you know, Lowry showed he was. It's a shame to say this. He's a shell of what he was. He had some spurts where for the Heat he did some good things, but like you never quite got the guy that you trade more for the name than the actual player that he is now. He'll give you good minutes, but there's some head scratching minutes in every game where you're like, what is he doing? That being said, even if Embiid's healthy, I mean, I don't trust either one of them, to be honest with you. I guess it's just, to me, it's mainly, the pedigree. It's always like the 76ers are always firing a coach. They're always shuffling the deck. And yes, the Knicks are getting better. I look back at the Heat series they had last year with them, and they scared me. I mean, just because Jalen Brunson's just not going away. He's just getting better and better and better. So I just don't trust either one of them. Boston, for a team that's, to me, Boston should walk away with the Eastern Conference for the last 3 years, and they're Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, if they beat you by 30, and if you leave them hanging around, they find a way to lose. So I just feel like I don't think either one of those teams can give the Celtics a run. But then again, the Celtics haven't they don't dominate when they need to dominate, and that's kind of, they do it in spurts. They don't do it for series, and that's something that if I was a Celtics fan, would concern me.
I mean, you got to think. I think the Celtics are the favorites right now in the entire NBA. I mean, you look at what they did in the offseason with Porzingis coming in, and they trade for Drew Holiday. It's funny with Drew Holiday, like he's just like the most underrated guy maybe in my lifetime. Like the Sixers traded him for Nerlens Noel because they thought they couldn't win with him. Goes down to New Orleans. He has a pretty good career. Then he's a missing link in Milwaukee. They get a championship. And Milwaukee thinks they can do better and get themselves back over the hump with Damian Lillard. And now he looks like he's going to be the missing link in Boston. So I don't understand what people don't see in Drew Holiday as a championship player, but that ever since the Sixers traded him and started this process, it's been hard to trust anything they do. You look at Buddy Hield coming in. I love Buddy Hield. He's been linked to the Sixers in rumors for years now. Now they finally got him. The Sixers, they have guards. They have guards for days, which I like. They added a lot of depth in the backcourt. I don't think they can beat Boston, even with a healthy Joel Embiid. But, we had a poll question on one of the shows, like, does seeding really matter for the Sixers? It's like if the Sixers are the 10th seed in the play-in tournament, does it matter? If you told me right now that, you're the 10th seed and you're in the play-in tournament, but Joel Embiid's going to be in that play-in tournament and he's going to be MVP Joe playing 35 minutes a night, like the Sixers have every bit of chance to represent, the bottom half of the bracket in the Eastern Conference Finals. And then they'll have to beat Boston. So I do think that if Joel Embiid is healthy, I think they're better than the Knicks. And Milwaukee is just – the wheels are coming off there. I don't know what's going on. We're going to talk about them later in the show with their coaching situation and the excuses and JJ Reddick's criticism. So, I don't know. I just don't know. The Eastern Conference, it's really wide open in the NBA. I think Boston's the favorite in terms of the entire league, but
Boston has the best team on paper. There's no doubt about it. They're deep. They've got everything, but they've had everything for years. For 2 or 3 years, to me, they've had everything. And they just, for some reason or another, there's a guy in South Florida named Eric Spoelstra who just finds a way to dial up G League guys and beat them. But as far as the seeding goes, it used to matter. I mean, the Heat were in the play-in series last year, and they end up, going to the NBA Finals. So I just think that there's more depth in. There's more depth in the NBA, I think, than it's been in a long time. You have your superpower. You can call Boston a superpower with their talent they have. But 2 through 10, every team has warts. Every team has something that's not clicking or doesn't work. But I still think that, the evolution of the three-pointer keeps a lot of teams in play. Because if you have a bad night shooting, there's 8 teams that can beat anybody if they have a bad night shooting the ball. And that goes for the entire NBA. I mean, how many times have we seen in the last 4 or 5 years where guys pass up layups to dish it out for a would-be 3? That's just the way the game has evolved. And, you had your Golden State years where they didn't miss and they just boat raced everybody. But you're starting to see a lot of other teams with the same idea and the same shooters and perimeter game, and they just drain threes. And You know, like when Boston makes their shots, they're almost unbeatable in the NBA. But it just, you know, it's like they don't have as it's hard to even say because of Jason Tatum, right? He's a game changer. But I feel like when Boston doesn't shoot well, the whole team goes cold. They don't have one guy where they're like, all right, this guy can bail me out. You know, like the Ray Allens of the world who just don't miss, right? If Ray Allen's bad night is, you know, as good as everybody else's good night, and they don't have that one key guy, it's like almost like they all start to press together. And when they're winning, everything's going right. So I there's a lot of warts on these teams, but I like Boston on paper to me is got to be the favorite to win the whole thing.
Celtics are 26-3 at home this year. That's unbelievable.
Something went wrong. Please try again.
Oh, sorry, Siri. That was Siri.
26, yeah, Siri. Joining the show
Shut
for
up,
a few
Siri.
minutes. That's all right.
Siri had something to say.
Yeah, more than Mary.
Siri had something to say last week too on mine, didn't he?
But it was I don't know. But 26-3 at home.
What were they last year? Wasn't it something crazy last year? Like they didn't lose a playoff home game until Miami beat them. They were undefeated at home in the postseason.
Yeah, then Miami almost swept them, didn't they?
Yes. That one it was 3-0. And then Boston climbed back to 3-3, and everybody's like, "Oh, it's in Boston, it's over." And then, you know, reality set in.
Didn't happen. And the 2 seed is the Cleveland Cavaliers. Boston's 6 clear of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Like Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland. Darius Garland hasn't even really played this year. He missed a lot of time. Then you have 3 seed the Bucks, who are a mess. They don't play any defense, and they have Doc Rivers, so you know they're not going anywhere. And then the 4-5 is the Knicks.
Let it go.
Then you have,
let it go, Rob. Let it go.
What?
Let it go. Let it go, Rob.
With Doc?
Doc coached you guys a long time ago.
Yeah, it's over. It's over.
Not really.
Don't hold a grudge.
Isn't this Nick Nurse? This is Nick Nurse's first season, is it not?
Yeah, but it seemed like forever ago.
Yeah, you just have to let it go.
Not that long ago. What do you mean?
Anyway. It's not, but it's not. But it's a new season.
Same old Sixers, though.
Yeah, same team, different coach.
It's a new year, but it's the same Sixers.
Same shit.
Celtics are at the top. We don't know if they're going to get through it. Then the Knicks, 4-5 seeds the Knicks. Then you got kind of the Pacers, the Heat. What about the Heat? Are the Heat laying in the weeds, or do they just lose too much in free agency, Doug?
I think they lost too much. I thought not pulling off the Lillard thing, it really set them back. Obviously, he's I think if you put him and Jimmy Butler together, that's a scary duo. That being said, they're just not healthy. Like they can't get healthy for long stretches, and that's it. It's almost the same thing that happened last year. It's like they're better than what they're showing, and if they can get healthy at the right time, I just think they lost too many like wedge breakers. They lost all. Like, think of the guys that kind of carried them on their run last year. Anthony, those guys, they're all gone, and I know you always have faith in the Heat way, right? You always have faith in the fact that they find players that no one else did. They develop them, and they become this defensive. They're crazy men on defense, and they just make shots. And I just think, like, sometimes with the Heat, I think this is one of those years where they lost more than they could replenish, and they're going to have to lean on a healthy Jimmy again. And Tyler Hero, they've pretty much banked the future on him, which I love him, but at the same token, he does some head scratching stuff too. Not a great defender, in my opinion. I think they're one piece short still. But then again, I go back to, and I'm not because I'm a homer, but it's in Spoelstra we trust. Like I just feel like year in, year out, if you had to win a series, there's no other coach I'd rather have coaching my team than Eric Spoelstra.
What is it about some coaches and some players that once the light turns on, when it's time to go, they're able to go, even if they haven't done it in months or the entire season?
He knows how to make his team go. I mean, a lot's going on with the Heat. There's no Mr. 305's not there. That's another. I mean, we carried him forever on the bench, and I think that has something to do with it. But I mean, they have a like when players trust their leader, like with X's and O's, and know that like what he does works if you just buy in. And I think too is what's amazing about Spoelstra is he's done it with three main superstars, and he's done it with a cast of characters, and that's he went from the big three to Jimmy Butler and the rest of them, right? You know, and that's what's amazing about this, and like to get guys to continually buy into what he's teaching, because I'm sure it's not a lot of fun to be a Miami Heat player as far as the work you have to put in, the attention to detail that they demand. As a player, it's like the Patriot way back when they were, you know, with Brady and everybody. Not everybody's cut out for that. There's some guys that just want to play in the NFL, and there's guys that want to buy into a system. And the Heat way, they just continually do this over and over and over again. And it's like, to me, he gets the maximum out of his guys and at the right times. And if he doesn't have like them rolling, he finds an alternative. And and players love the fact that he's just, I know Duncan Robinson was going through, he got the big contract and he couldn't make a shot. And Max Strus comes on the scene. But he always told Duncan Robinson, hey, when you're out there, let it fly. You're a shooter. Shoot. Keep shooting. And then when you hear that, it's like striking out in baseball. You're hitting coach, your manager's like, hey, keep swinging. Come on. You're going to get there. When you hear that over and over again, you don't feel you want to do well for them. There's none of this finger pointing. I think he just gets the maximum out of guys and he gets, how many guys have he's created a career for that, in other words, probably wouldn't have a chance to play for anybody else because they weren't drafted or they weren't, and it's just amazing. Like that's what made last year's team so fun to watch, and that's why his teams are fun to watch is because he just gets, he gets complementary pieces and they play their brains out and they hustle, they play defense, they do little things that don't really make the stat sheet, but they help you win games at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's got to be attractive. I mean, if you're a second-round pick and you see that Spoelstra likes you, I mean, you're probably going to get paid one day. Always remember to hit that like, hit that subscribe, turn those notifications on right there. Let us know. Doug, you mentioned the Patriot way and how some guys aren't into it. They just want to play. They don't really want to put the extra work in. A little bit off topic, but Anthony Rendon caught some heat said baseball is not his best priority. How many guys in professional sports, obviously you can speak to baseball, I'm sure you know other professional athletes too. How many guys are like Ben Simmons? Maybe not to the extreme of Ben Simmons, but they just do basketball or baseball or football because they're really good at it and they can make a lot of money. They don't necessarily love the game.
There's a lot. I mean, there's more than people think. I remember having conversations with Adam Dunn, and like Adam Dunn to Richie Sexton. Like Richie Sexton's thing was like, man, we have a game tomorrow too, and the day after that. Like he was being sarcastic, but it's like, man, we play a lot of games, and you hear that over and over. And some guys, you can tell they don't love it. They're just good at it, and maybe who's to say I was right and they were wrong, or vice versa. I just feel like I cared so much at times that I think it was a detriment to how I played. I always envied the guys that could just let it roll off them and come in tomorrow and just be like, yeah, I'm coming. I punch my clock and go home. I think like more players than people think Rendon have that thought process. It's just never a good thing to verbalize it, especially coming off of a contract where they gave you, top dollar, and you haven't gone to the post at all for the team that gave you that money. And, just the little things like he's not available to the media. It's just a lot of things that they start to add up and you start checking those boxes and you're like, man, like that's just bad. That's a bad soundbite. You just don't ever want that. You can say it around your guys. I don't know if I'd publicly come out and say it unless it's like in jest. But even then, be careful of what you say because now he's getting lambasted for it.
Big time. NBA Western Conference. Are the Clippers finally going to figure this thing out with Westbrook, Harden, Kawhi, and Paul George? They're 7-3 in their last 10. They've won one game in a row. They're 2 games back of the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. The 2 upstart teams ahead of them that haven't really been there before in the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Oklahoma City Thunder. 2 teams I really like, by the way. But is this the Clippers' Western Conference to lose, Brad?
I think so. I look, you could say whatever you want about how good these young teams are. You see what happens in the playoffs, time after time after time. Okay, the NBA, you really need to have that playoff experience. I mean, teams very rarely sneak up and win an NBA championship. You know, that just whatever reason in the NBA that doesn't seem to happen. You know, it's always the innocent climb in the NBA, and I think that those 2 teams, while they're really good, I think they're highly susceptible to getting bounced in the first round. You know, I'm not talking about the playoff, like when they get past the the 7, 10, 8, 9 stuff. When those teams are playing in there, you know, they're definitely susceptible to it. You know, would you not be surprised if Golden State and the Lakers ended up being like the 7 and 8 seeds and knocking those 2 teams off?
Well, they're 9-10 right now, so they would both be in the play-in tournament. The Lakers, I could see making a run because LeBron is still awesome, and Anthony Davis is still really good, and I like their team better than the Warriors. The Warriors just don't have a healthy Klay Thompson. Yeah, he's healthy, he's playing games, but he tore his Achilles, and he just hasn't been the same player. And Draymond Green, I feel like, is just like a ticking time bomb. You got Wiggins, who's nice, but like I just don't see enough there. They do have Steph Curry, though. So Steph Curry, he could go for a 50-burger and carry it. But, like, can Steph Curry, like, get a 50-burger 4 out of 7 games and will the team to a win? That's tough to do. That's a lot to ask. I could definitely see the Lakers making a run, though. You know,
that's what I'm saying, though. Those bottom teams in the playoffs could be very dangerous. You know, I mean, really, who thought that the Kings would lose last year? Okay, I thought for sure the Kings were going to be in the conference finals, and they didn't, and they didn't. You know, and they're going to be better this year because of what happened last year. So you got to watch out for them too. That whole conference, I think, is wide open. It's the East is a little bit more, as far as top heavy. The Celtics are the team to beat in the East. We all know that. In the West, I'm not sure. I think any team could come out of the West.
It all boils down to health for me for the Clippers. I mean, how much does Paul George and those guys have left in the tank? You know, that's, you know, that. But to me, teams like that need their stars to play like stars, and I feel like they haven't done that recently. But the threat is always there. Like if you get Paul George and those guys, you know, Kawhi Leonard get on a run together, like, and they stay healthy, like you can be like, you might not be what you were, but you can play in a short series like you used to. It's just a matter of how long can you continue that. And like I said, I wouldn't be shocked at all to see, you know, an 8 seed beat a 1 seed or a 7 seed beat a 2 seed. Because again, at the end of the day, if you have Steph Curry on your team, you're dangerous because he can do some. He can go on a run where he scores 4 nights in a row.
If he gets hot, if he starts getting hot from 3, I mean, you know, he could throw up 5 shots and have 15 points. You know, in like 3 minutes.
Right.
That's how ridiculously good the guy is. You know, that's why I say that. Well, let me ask you a question, guys, because I is it still you know, old legs fade in May? Is that still a thing in the NBA, or is it because of the change of the game it's no longer like that?
I think the whole like load management thing is a little overblown. I also think though, like there's something to be said about when you get older and it's not that you're not healthy. It's just your legs don't bounce back like they used to. And I can't imagine running up down the floor like that for how many years and continually, because there's some nights, I said this when LeBron was with the Heat, like you could tell, like, LeBron's biggest thing as a member of the Miami Heat to me was, like, he spent even games in the playoffs where he settled for a perimeter shot, and the Heat would struggle. And when he attacked the basket, we were unstoppable. But he couldn't. I feel like he pulled back at times to save himself almost, and it was almost like, hang on a second. And then he went to Cleveland. He went back to Cleveland, and he attacked from the first tip off of the season throughout the NBA Finals. And it was just different. I just think sometimes you get older, your legs get like they're not hurt, but they don't have the spring. And those guys know. You know when you step on the court or the floor or the field, and you're like, I got like,
not
jealous.
tonight.
Like it ain't happening tonight.
Tonight.
It's just not going to work. And they know that, even as much as you might have adrenaline and all that stuff, but it wears off. And I think that ties into what we just talked about with young teams, as they start to realize, okay, these games are really starting to matter, and they get overhyped. And that's the biggest, I think, a lot of times too, is if you get too excited, it zaps your energy faster, and you lose that because of the emotions of everything. And I think the older teams, they know how to, like, let's say they're still excited and they still the playoffs, but they know how to, like, contain it. They know how to corral it and use it to their advantage. And I think that's why I always seem to, like, that's why I feel like you never really see that young team kind of keep going in the playoffs, because something happens where, like, they have a, lack of a better term. I used to tell all my teams in the playoffs, like, when I was managing, was like, we're going to get hit with something in this series where we have no choice but to just deal with it. There's going to, like, bad stuff's going to happen to us. Just know that going in, and it's how we react and how we respond to it is whether we're going to win or lose this series. And, like, just to prepare them to understand, like, we're going to have a stretch where we're going to make bad pitches. We're going to make wrong decisions. We're going to have bad at-bats. We're going to make a bad play. It's about understanding that that's coming and understand how to keep, like, limit the damage. I go, you might give up 3, but you didn't give up 5, and that's what kept us in the game, and it kept us in the series. And there's something to be said about that in every sport. And I think the young guys start to get, like, they start to realize what they're doing, and then they realize, like, I can't hold these guys off this long. I think it's just it's a maturity thing.
Yeah,
Who's the NBA?
That's
Go ahead,
the whole
Brad.
problem. I'm sorry, Rob.
Go ahead.
The issue, my whole thing is, it just seems like in the playoffs, the older teams, they turn up the defensive intensity in the fourth quarter. They ratchet it up, and the young teams just don't seem to know how to handle that. I mean, that just seems to be every year. It seems to happen.
You guys know this. You guys as fans know this too. Like, every sport gets officiated different in the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Ticky-tack things that get, like, in the NFL, the whistle gets blown for a guy breathes on a guy. It's a pass interference. Then all of a sudden they really get really physical in the postseason, and they get away with it. Basketball too. I mean, it's like everything gets ratcheted up in the postseason where, like, no blood, no foul. They let them play a little bit. They swallow the whistle. I think older guys, the more they go through that, they understand that, like, okay, like, that's a foul every day of the week and twice on Sunday, just not in the East, like, not in the conference final. It's not. So I think there's a few more things that just comes with experience.
I hate that report that they do after every NBA game. I don't know what they call it, where they are like, at 3 minutes to go in the game, LeBron drove and there should have been a foul call and they didn't call him.
So stupid.
Who cares?
Because if you blew a whistle every time LeBron thought he was fouled, the game would be 6.5 hours long.
Oh, no doubt.
He's yet to take 3 dribbles without thinking he was fouled at least one time.
Yeah, I love when he, like, punches somebody in the face, figuratively, like, punches someone in the face, and they look at the ref like, me? Me?
What? Or the guy that tackles the guy out of bounds, like, I didn't touch him. What are you talking about?
Fell all by himself.
Or like the tap and they end up in the stands. You're like, come on, man. Like, you're 6'8", 260.
The
like,
flop.
The flop. Like, stop it. Like, stop. Can someone please just one time this playoff, NBA playoff, drive to the basket where you don't end up on the floor? Just just take it. Just one time. Just go for a layup, get tapped, and stay on your feet. Don't like get your butt and roll off the floor. Just get up, please. I can't stand
All right,
it.
there it is. Remember to hit that like, hit that subscribe, turn those notifications on. We're the final whistle here on A2D Radio. Guys, who's the NBA MVP right now?
Who's the what?
Who's the MVP? Who would your vote go
Ooh.
as far as MVP? And what do we think of the rule where you have to play in 65 of 82 games to be eligible for postseason awards?
Oof.
Boy, oh boy.
That's a good question.
Pretty wide open. First, what do we think of the what do you think of the rule? I like the rule too.
I like it.
Because attendance counts. You know, I mean, it does. If you're an MVP, you have to play the games. You can't be missing 25% of the season. You know, or 20% of the season, I guess, because if it's 80 games and you're missing 16, yeah, that's 20%. Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. You're not most valuable if you're missing 20% of the season all the time. You know, I mean, you may be the best player in the league, but that, you know, there has to be some accountability for that.
According to Fox Sports, Nikola Jokic is the favorite to win MVP right now. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on the Thunder is second. Giannis, Luka, Tatum, Kawhi, and Jalen Brunson in there. And,
well, obviously, I have a
in the top 7 there.
I have a slight prejudice for Jalen Brunson because he's really carried the team. The difference in the Knicks from past years to this year is clearly him. I mean, it was last year too. So
he was fun to watch last postseason. He was fun to watch.
He really was. I mean, look, the Heat were just better than the Knicks, and again, that's the proof of my point about playoff experience. You know, the Heat they've been in it all the time. You know, they've got all that experience, and in close games, you know, they're not afraid to take that shot. They know that they can step up and make a big stop. They know they can do that, and that's what I mean. If I'm as a Knicks fan, that's one team I really don't want to play. I want to stay away from them because they make it ugly and they make it difficult, and you have to match grit with them. And I don't know that they can do that. You know,
they muck it up. They defend. They defend. They do things that it's all in preparation. Like those guys are prepared for. Last year was special. I mean, like every game seemed like every game they played was one of those games where they're down 9 or down 11. They come back the last 2 minutes, or they're all 1-point games, and like they know how to. Like it's like to me, it all goes back to coaching, it goes back to Pat Riley, it goes back to Spoelstra. Those guys are prepped for, like, just like lack of a better term, street brawls, and they know how to take away what you do best, and they make you work for every single thing you get. And I don't think a lot of teams are built that way.
No, they're like the old 90s teams, like the old 90s Knicks when they had Ewing and Oakley and those guys, and the Indiana Pacers when they had the Davis brothers.
They bloody you up. I mean, they make everything hard. They switch.
And the bad boys in Detroit too. They remind me of those kind of teams.
They have length.
Yeah, and they if you go down the lane, you're going to pay them. If you want to go to the foul line, you can go to the foul line, but rest assured, you know, it's not going to be a little tap that makes you go down.
They're deep. You know, they don't have a ton of great players. They have a ton of good ones. And they all have a niche to where they make everything difficult on you. And I think some teams, and I think they're different because they have their style and they force you to play their way. But yet they can do things. They're like, I always say this, like, teams don't like it when you throw their game back in their face. And I think some teams can't handle that. They can beat you like a lot of different ways. And that's a tough, I don't think anybody wants to see them in the postseason. Quite honestly, I'm not saying because I'm a homer, but like, damn, like they can beat you with stars, they can beat you without stars, they can beat you. They were banged up. They didn't have Tyler Hero for the whole entire playoff run last year, and he was. I mean, like he's in every trade talk, and they end up keeping him because they believe in him, and he's going to be. He can create his own shot, and like that means something in Spoelstra's offense.
Boy, we talked about the Bad Boys. Greatest ESPN documentary ever was the Bad Boys. I'm born in '89. I'm 34, but if I grew up watching the Bad Boys, I'd probably be a Pistons fan in Philadelphia.
I hated them. I was a Celtics fan. I was Larry Bird and all those guys, and they tried to decapitate Larry Bird. And Michael
I used to root for them just because I couldn't stand Boston. I hate Boston. Every sport I hate Boston. So
I didn't know. I was in innocent Ohio, and I didn't know anything about anything. I moved to Florida. I knew nothing about it. I just knew that my dad liked Larry Bird, so whenever he was on TV, I had to watch, and it was like, okay, like I like this guy. He mucks it up. He shoots lights out, and he talks smack.
He was he's a great player. It's just that they're Boston. You can't if you're a fan of New York teams. Boston is not a city you ever root for.
I did not like Lambeer. I did not like Lambeer, even though
nobody liked him. I
appreciated how he played, but I couldn't stand him.
What was it? The Celtics they finally beat the Celtics in what was it, 89, I think, and the Celtics walked out before the game was even over.
That was the Pistons that walked out. That was the Pistons that walked out when the Bulls finally beat them.
Of all teams, the Celtics
both happened, right?
Yeah,
I think it happened. Yeah, the Celtics. You know what? They had ML Carr on their team. Okay, so they can't be crying. They should never have been crying about anything. ML Carr was the dirtiest player I ever saw in the history of the NBA.
All he did was wave the towel for them that year. He didn't do anything else but wave the white towel. That's all he did.
Yeah,
but he just ran his mouth.
Yeah, but before that, he was really bad too. You know what I'm talking about.
His whole job was when someone hit Larry to go in there and hit him back. That was his whole job.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah.
That was it.
And if you got a layup, you were going to go in the first.
You were going to get your feet taken out from underneath you. That's exactly right.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they wouldn't.
That guy made a living doing that.
And then they wouldn't let Isaiah be on the dream team, which he obviously should have been on it. Yeah.
Let it go.
Yeah.
No.
All right, let's get into the Milwaukee Bucks. Doug, have you ever been on a team that changed managers during the season?
No. We've changed GMs, changed hitting coaches. That was a head scratcher. That I didn't understand it. It just didn't make sense. It still doesn't make sense. I don't know why you would ever possibly do that. They weren't horrible. They weren't like
they were 30-13.
Right. They were. I mean, that's why I don't understand. Like something that hasn't come out yet went on, and we don't know. Like there's something there that's hidden because, I mean, no offense, like you brought in probably the best player that no one's really had a chance to watch. I mean, you made an NBA champion that much better with a guy who wants the ball in crucial situations, and we're winning. And like I've actually felt bad for Doc in the sense of like not the fact that he got paid or he's another coach, but it's like there's that not anybody would take that job from a team that's 30-13. There's nowhere for him to go but down. Like that team was predicted to be right, and the season started. As soon as they pulled that trade off, everybody's talking about, the Bucks are going to win the NBA championship. So like you're walking into a team who's 30-13, just traded for the best player probably in the last free agent in the last 4 or 5 years who was available in a trade, and now you're going to take this over, and it's like a team that just won a championship a couple years ago. So it takes a special trust in yourself. So that's a challenge. Don't get me wrong. Not many people would turn it down, but deep inside, when you're all by yourself, you're thinking, this is a tough one. I mean, because you only one place to go but down. and it just didn't make sense. And now you're seeing it where it's like, look, players need time to get together. I mean, look at when the Heat did that. They had the big three. They were 500 in the beginning of the year. Everybody's like, what the hell's going on? We got the best player in the world, along with D Wade, Chris Bosh. You're like, what? How come we're like, why are we 14-14? Like, this shouldn't happen. And it takes them a while to kind of get used to it. But they already went through that. They were 30-13. They were on their way to being the 1 seed by a landslide. And to make a change in the middle of the year, something drastic had to happen behind closed doors, or Giannis couldn't stand them, or something happened that I haven't seen. It hasn't come out that to me has been bad enough to make a switch in the middle of the year.
I mean,
Is Giannis a coach?
They got routed by Memphis the other night. Memphis had all G Leaguers, two-way players, and undrafted rookies on their team. They didn't have a starting five. Everybody on their team is hurt. They've had a lot of bad luck. They're 3-7 under Doc. They play no defense. They didn't play any defense under the last guy. They don't play any defense under Doc. The 7 losses that they have, an average of over 10 points a game per loss. I mean, I thought they were kind of Fugazi 30-13 because like they would win 145-140 every night. Maybe Doc can fix that, but then now Doc is like, I don't know why I'm here. I don't know why I'm taking over for this guy. Seems like there's a new excuse and a new story every day with this team and the coaching situation. Maybe Dame and Giannis aren't getting along. I have no idea.
I'm wondering if Giannis is just a coach killer, because there are some guys like that.
Yeah. You just won a championship 2 years ago.
Yeah, well,
with Budenholzer, and they fired him too.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, Giannis is the common denominator in all this, not Dame. Okay, Dame just got there this year, so I'm thinking it's Giannis. Something, whatever it is, Giannis wants to be the center of attention, and he's not getting something isn't being done that's making him miserable.
And if that's the case, then and to me, if you have basketball is different than football. Even in baseball, you ask your star player, you may not ask him exactly who you want, but there's personality traits that you look for to make your stars happy, right? You only have 12 dudes on a roster. You would think Giannis would be the final, the jury, all of it, the judge, everything, and be like, hey, let's go get this guy. This guy, to me, it's who else can we go through? Is there anybody? Is there anybody else you want? Because Doc's been there for 10 games and you're 3-7. Do you not like him? You like already? So you want another guy? I just don't understand. You win a championship, especially for a franchise like that it's been forever. They haven't had a consistent winner in how long? And you finally get over the hump. What do you like? What else do you want? You think in a place like Milwaukee, a small market, you would think that guy would be there forever.
Yeah, but again, Giannis is the common denominator for all this. I think it's something. There's something about him that gets coaches fired, and I don't know that. I'm not in their locker room. I'm not a Bucks fan. I don't really follow them all that much, but there's got to be something about him that's causing some of this. Maybe
you're absolutely right about there's some players are coach killers, and usually I hate to say it, I used to make that line in pro ball, when in our meetings, I'm we talk about potential all the time and what he could be, and I'm and there are certain players you know what that is? That guy's going to get us all fired because he's talented, he's got athletic ability, but he doesn't grasp what we're trying to teach. But he's a scout's dream. But he's a coach killer because he's going to get us all fired because he's not getting what we're trying to teach. It's you can tell, you can see those guys. They're not usually guys who win MVP awards, but at the end of the day, it's not a popularity contest. It is what it is. It's hey, if you get the best out of somebody and after you've won, what are you going to tell young? That's what I don't get. There's something that you hit the nail on the head. What are they going to tell him? If you're the star player of a team that's won a championship, you're more worried about how you're coaching the other 11 guys. Like, I got me. Fix that. And I'll buy, if you need me to buy in, like, they just don't ever seem to be on the same page.
I mean, that's the dream scenario for the Sixers, really, or the Knicks. Keep sliding down the standings because of your injuries. Get to the playoffs healthy and draw Milwaukee. All three of our teams, really.
I'll be honest with you. I wouldn't be that afraid of Cleveland either. Cleveland is too small up front.
They're on an incredible winning streak right now that has propelled them up the standings. They're 9-1 in their last 10.
I understand that, but again, it's the middle of February.
Garland got healthy, who can really stick it. So
I was more shocked when the Heat lost to the Bucks than the 2 years they beat them in the playoffs. Don't care where we were seated. Don't care where they were. Like, I was more shocked we got beat by them than us beating them 2 out of the last 3 years in the playoffs.
They were really rolling. That's when they played they beat the Suns, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were clicking. Budenholzer had them clicking. Everyone was buying in. You had Drew in his prime. Chris Middleton was in his prime, and you had Giannis. I believe Giannis won MVP that year.
Yeah, and Middleton was the guy who killed us. Who killed?
Now he's yeah. He's kind of the Klay Thompson of the Eastern Conference now. Still good, but not what he was. All right. Final segment here on the Final Whistle. Remember, hit that like, hit that subscribe, turn those notifications on. Don't miss a damn thing here on A2D Radio. Did either of you guys watch the All-Star game, NBA All-Star game?
No.
On Sunday night?
No. I watched about 5 minutes of it, and watching that is as annoying as watching the NHL All-Star game. Nobody bothers to play defense. Nobody hits. In the NBA, nobody even bothers to stick a hand up to try to block a shot. I mean, it's like okay, I'm gonna throw it. It's this guy's turn to score, so throw the ball to him and let him take a 3-pointer. Right. It's like that annoyed me. I watched like 5 minutes.
They're making a mockery out of it. It's getting to the point where it's like, come on, man, like, and that's what
they know it too.
The
commissioner knows it, and that's why they're trying to figure out other ways to do it, because it's not even it's gotten to be a joke now. So,
here's an idea. How about we just not do it?
Well, you could, their idea of the world. That's not a bad idea. Like, 4 countries going at it. They're doing that in hockey. Maybe they should try that in basketball too.
Oh, they screwed it up when they went to that stupid in-season tournament crap. Like that to me, that was the start of a disaster. And I will say this, like, I was never an all-star at the major league level. Did I want to be? Of course. Did I want to go play in the game? No.
That's what it is.
No. Everybody wanted to be voted an all-star. Not many wanted to go play. No.
Yeah.
It's for your family. I get it. To go there one time to take the picture, but it's 3 days of chaos. And it's just, I understand it. I get it. I can understand how a player would be like, yeah, man, I'm good. Like, I don't want to go do this. Like, the last thing you want to do is pick up a bat. Right.
Here's my address. Send me the bonus check for being named to the team, but I'm going to take the week off. And
I would have given the bonus check back just to be like, okay, like, here, you can have it. I'd rather go home for a couple of days and kind of regroup and get some sleep and get ready for the second half. But I want to be able to say, when it comes down to arbitration or free agency, that I was a 2002 All-Star. Yeah,
right here, All-Star.
Yeah.
Got it.
You can keep your check, but you're going to pay me at the end of it, not now. But
what about guys who get voted in and then they look for an excuse to not play? Like, there was a guy by the name of Gary Templeton. You remember him, Doug?
Oh yeah.
Okay. If I ain't starting, I ain't departing. Remember that line?
Yeah.
Because I don't remember who in the National League was the starting shortstop, but it wasn't him, and he refused to go to the All-Star game because he wasn't starting the game. So you get some guys like that too.
Did the fans vote back then?
Yeah, the fans voted the starters.
Yeah.
and then the manager voted the rest of the reserves. And
I like that.
I didn't like that because it cost me. It cost me my only shot.
Because they play favorites. What was your
I mean,
best season?
01. I always had horrible I always had horrible
Right.
Aprils. And I got off to a great. I was hitting 400 in May, and I thought, like, man, if this is the only shot I'm really going to have. And Torrey took 11 Yankees. But it was the same year. It was the same year, though. It was the same year that, like, Giambi had 30 at the break. Olerud was in Seattle. Olerud was rolling. Delgado had 35. So, like, making it at first base was, like, almost impossible for me. And I thought, like, if the players voted on it at the time, I felt like that would have been my best shot. And, I think the closest I came was I was a Met, and I was, like, second in the votes. And I was having a miserable year. And I think Derek Lee, I remember sitting there, I think Derek Lee got hit in the wrist. And I was thinking to myself, like, I didn't know how it worked, but I'm sitting there, some of the guys were like, if his wrist's broken, like, are you the starter? I'm like, hell no. I go, I will forfeit. Like, I won't go. Like, there's no way my numbers are worthy of starting an all-star game. Like, please. Like, I was, like, embarrassed. I was like, please, God, tell me no. Because, like, I'm hitting 230 with, like, 10 homers, and I'm, like, 21 RBIs. I'm like, yeah, there's dudes that have, like, 90 RBIs. Like, that's where the fans, like, because I played in New York, and I get it. Like, the fans vote. But, like, like, there's so many guys that deserve it.
Doug, you had 300 seasons.
I had 3.
3.
But
okay.
I mean, that's I didn't have the homers, and I get it. I get it. Like, I mean, I'm trying to beat out Giambi in his heyday. Olerud, Delgado was rake. He hit 35, 40 homers a year, and there was always someone that you didn't know about. And what frustrated me was the only thing that made me not upset, but, like, I was envious of, the 2001 year was the year that we sent 3 guys. We sent Eric Milton, I think Christian Guzman, and I think it was Joe Mays, maybe. And then the next year was AJ and Torrey in Milwaukee. And I was like, man, like, I felt like my start kind of got us. Like, I was hitting 400. We were like 21-3. And I was like, man, we're rolling. And that's the only part I was like, man, like, I can't believe I say this. Like, I can't believe, like, because that was the year Jeter hurt his shoulder. So, like, that's how Guzzi kind of slid in. And I thought, like, because Joe Torre, once again, Christian Guzman was a Yankee, and he was in the Chuck Knobloch trade. So, like, so it's like another way to be like, look at all our Yankee guys. And I was just like, okay, Joe, you took 11 dudes. And as you should have, you just finished 3 back-to-back World Series championships. But I'm like, hey, man, what about us little people, dude? Like, I'll never have another shot at this. Like, come on, man. Like, I want to go for my parents. I don't want to go for me. I want to go because I want to have my parents. I want my dad to be able to walk to get his electrical equipment in the morning and say my son was an all-star.
Yeah, well, you know what? Your dad has a son who won a championship, has a ring. You hit 300 3 times, and you won 2 Gold Gloves.
One.
Okay. You won a Gold Glove, and you were always a very dangerous hitter. So
I appreciate that.
What more do you want out of life? Okay, so
he wanted to be an all-star, Brad.
Yeah, I know.
For his dad, he wanted to
get over
it. I want to be a World Series.
You weren't Lou Gehrig. You weren't Lou Gehrig, and nobody else is either.
No, that's true. That's that. I tricked him for a long time. I tricked him for 12 years.
But you were always a tough outing. You know that.
I tried to be.
Yeah, I never liked when you were up when you guys played the Yankees because there was no way to actually pitch to you. Because
I love playing in Yankee Stadium. I love that.
You were always if they pitched you inside, you pulled it. If you pitched to left field, you smacked one to left field. You know, those to me are the toughest people to get out. Home run hitters strike out a lot.
The year where I was talking about, it was 2005. I was a Met, and I literally killed the Phillies that year. At Philly, I killed them. And I remember being in Philly, being joking with David Wright, going, "You do realize that I'm the only guy in this park that's getting booed by both fan bases, putting his uniform on, because Met fans would come to the games, and I'd be like, David, but at least Met fans cheer for you. Like, I can understand Philly hating you because, one, they hate everybody, and two, you're good. I said, but I'm getting booed by both fan bases. Like, I'll never forget this. I was going on deck, and I was having a great series. I was going on deck, and there was someone sitting together with a Phillies jersey and a Mets jersey, and they both were screaming at me. I was like, you've made it when you've irritated both fan bases at a visitor's game.
Just means you don't suck.
The stuff
that's what Schilling always said about Yankees fans. It means you Yankees fans boo you. It just means you don't suck. You wear a badge of honor.
So great.
That means you're important because we're booing you.
The stuff you remember.
Yeah.
All right, final thoughts. Just about out of time here. NBA championship predictions.
Ooh.
Eastern Conference champion, Western Conference champion.
I mean, is it fair to say that the Celtics and the Clippers, or is that just being too easy to predict that?
I'm saying Boston, Denver.
Denver going back. I
think James Harden is finally going to get his chance.
I hope not.
I have a funny feeling he's finally going to get his chance. He won't suck this time in the playoffs.
I believe in the Wolves. I do. They're the 1 seed in the West right now.
You picked the Diamondbacks, so be careful. You've got something on this thing.
Yeah, he did.
Now I'm gonna have to watch
Boston. I just don't see how Boston loses in the East this year. I really don't. I don't either. I think the best chance to dethrone them or to throw them off this 1 seed is probably the Sixers if Joel Embiid is healthy, but I don't trust that one bit. No. Knicks, maybe. But yeah, I believe Anthony Edwards is a freak. And Doug, this has no bearing on my prediction at all, but I did bet on the Wolves to win the Western Conference at the beginning of the season.
Well, that means they're going to win then, because you pull these out of your butt.
I pull one out of where? I never win anything. I come like when you almost win. You know what they call that, Doug, in Vegas or anywhere? It's a loss.
Correct.
You lose.
Or if they say at the track, you're still tearing that ticket at the end.
Yeah. Oh man, my horse, he came in second. Well, did you bet at the place? No, I bet the win. Okay, no. then you lost.
No, the best one is always when you play the exacta, okay, and your horse comes in first and third, and then you're like pulling your hair out, and then there's always the one where you hit an exacta, and then one of your horses gets disqualified. That's another one. And that can only happen. And for those of you guys out there who go to the track, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, everybody does. It's like Eddie Mush in the Bronx Tale.
If you see that number blinking, okay, on the scoreboard, and you bet it, you know it's coming down. There's not even a question. And if it's not you, if it's something else, then it's going to replace it. It's going to end up moving up ahead of you.
No, the best is the guy that freaks out, throws the ticket on the ground. I just kind of throw my hands up at this point and just throw my ticket out and go bet on the next race. But
I just leave him. I leave him in my pocket, and at the end of the day, if I lose, I sit there and look at it. It's like, oh man, you're gonna stop calling myself a handicapper.
I'm my handicap.
All right. Who the Phillies just signed?
Whit Merrifield.
Correct.
Not a bad pick.
Very good
pickup. Not bad. Not bad at all.
Sneaky value. Dombrowski doing work. He's going to be a huge help.
Preview of our next show. We'll probably get back into baseball next week. But until then, for Doug Minkiewicz, Brad Ryer, I'm Rob Brinkman from The Final Whistle on A2D Radio. Peace out.